You want to break your opponent's neck without breaking the wallet. Pretty logical, honestly. And you clicked on the right video. On top of that, the right channel. Hopefully this video will spark some new ideas for ways to end the game. Today I've got 50 budget win conditions for y'all to look at. I consider a budget card between 1 cent to $3. In this video we'll have ways to win in all different ways and all different strats and all different types and shapes and sizes. We'll also follow our Lord and Savior Wooberg to get started, so we'll start off with white. First we've got Vexillus Praetor for $2.21. 3 and a white for a 3/4 flash vigilance. Commanders you control have protection from everything. Removal? Nope. Burn? Nope. Insults from your ex? Very much still at play. In a Voltron deck or any deck with bigger commanders with evasion, start bopping. Next we've got Approach of the Second Sun for $2.36. 6 and a white for a sorcery that wins you the game if it's the second time you've played it. If it's not, you put it 7 cards from the top and you gain 7 life. A straight up win condition here. Not much else to say. Literally one of my all-time favorite cards is next. 8 and a half tails for 14 cents. 2 white for a 2/2. Pay 1 and a white. Target permanent gains protection from white until end of turn. Pay 1 colorless. Target permanent or spell becomes white until end of turn. Amazing protection. Amazing evasion for your big crazy beaters. Love this one. Up next is Light from Within for $1.90. 2 and 2 white for an enchantment. Each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each white mana symbol in its mana cost. Yeah, this one's kind of cracked. Even in a 2-color deck, if you have enough white pips, this goes pretty hard. Archangel Avacyn's next from Secret Lair 1209 for $1.03. 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 flash flying vigilance. Already very good. When she enters, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. When a non-angel creature you control dies, transform her. Yeah, sure, you could wipe the entire board and then flash her in response to keep your entire board alive. Sure. But she also flips into Avacyn the Purifier, a 6/5 red angel with flying. When this creature transforms into Avacyn the Purifier, it deals 3 damage to each other creature an opponent controls, and each opponent. Keep this in mind, you can only run this in a Boros deck or a deck with Boros in it, which probably explains the price, but this could definitely win you a game in a creature deck for sure. Speaking of creatures, Court of Grace is next for 48 cents, with a super good board presence. 2 and 2 white for an enchantment that makes you the Monarch when it enters, gives you a 4/4 angel on your upkeep with flying if you're still the Monarch. If you're not the Monarch, that's fine, you get a 1/1 spirit with flying. Flyers on board, card draw, can definitely bring home a game for sure. Bond of Discipline is next, recommended by Savino Balducci over on YouTube for 14 cents. 4 and a white to tap all your opponent's creatures, and your creatures gain lifelink until end of turn. Keep in mind, this is all your opponent's creatures, so you could team up with the guy you're about to pass turn to like team up on the other 2 guys with all their creatures tapped and just win the game and take 2 players out like that. Great suggestion. Plus your life goes way up from the lifelink. Alright, moving on to blue. We're starting off with Flux Channeler for $1.80. 2 and a blue for a 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. This is pretty self-explanatory. Planeswalker deck, boom. +1/+1 counter deck, boom. Pretty much any counter deck will get supercharged by this $2 card. Love it. Opposition is next. It's one I've talked about on the channel before, and I'll continue to talk about it. 28 cents for a 2 and 2 blue enchantment. You can tap an untapped creature you control to tap target artifact, creature, or land an opponent controls. If your commander makes tokens in any way, I would consider running this to shut off important artifacts and just open up the field for you to smack with. Replication Specialist is coming in next for 5 cents. 4 and a blue for a 3/4 flying. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may pay 1 and a blue. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that artifact. Again, pretty self-explanatory how you could win with this thing. It's pretty nuts. Speaking of self-explanatory of how you win, Triskaidekaphile is next for 53 cents. 1 and a blue for a 1/3. You have no maximum hand size. Already useful. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in hand, you win the game. Pay 3 and a blue, draw a card. This card is so good just as a utility piece, and the stipulation for winning isn't that hard to do, especially when it has a draw card engine on it. I don't know why this isn't played more. It's super cool. Speaking of cards that genuinely shocked me looking up this list, Vesuvan Diplomacy is insane. For $2.39, get a load of this thing. 3 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. Like what? Double commanders, double beaters. Yes, sir. All right, I'm going to be honest. The next one I'm cheating on a little bit. It's Time Stretch. It's $3.11, but I'm not going to let you guys not buy this thing for 11 cents more. 8 and 2 blue. Yeah, 10 mana, but you get to take 2 extra turns. And let me read that again. Let me reread it. Oh, yeah, it doesn't exile itself. How nice. It actually works great with the next card we're going to talk about. Mnemonic Deluge for $2.76. It's a sorcery that costs 6 and 3 blue. Again, a hefty price, but for a super strong card. Exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Copy that card 3 times, and you can cast the copies without paying their mana cost. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pay that Time Stretch 3 times and take 6 extra turns. Doesn't seem too bad. Yeah, welcome to how my cousin beats my ass in his Joda deck. Super fun, because they both just cost 5 in that deck, which seems fine. And finally, for blue, a card that's been in my arsenal since it came out, Archetype of Imagination for 92 cents. 4 and 2 blue for a 3/2 creature. Creatures you control have flying. Creatures your opponents control lose and can't gain flying. There you go. Board wide, unblockable. This is never not going to be one of my favorite ways to win. Moving on to black, we're starting with Marionette Master, recommended by Wayne Feller over on YouTube for 57 cents. 4 and 2 black for a 1/3 Fabricate. When it enters, you can put 3 1/1 servo artifact creature tokens into play, or it can enter with 3 additional 1/1 counters on it. When an artifact's put into your graveyard, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. I've got 4 words for you. Treasure, clue, food, blood. GG. Stunning Reversal is not only next, but has the perfect name. For 3 and a black at instant speed, the next time you would lose the game, instead draw 7 cards, and your life total becomes 1. Exile Stunning Reversal. This is as close to Teferi's protection in black that you're going to get, plus drawing 7 cards. If someone just swung at you, you may be able to bring home the win. This is a failsafe that doubles as a way to win when you're on the back foot, which I love. Profane Transfusion is next for 49 cents, recommended by Big Dog over on YouTube. 6 and 3 black for a sorcery. 2 target players exchange life totals. Create an XX colorless horror artifact token where X is the difference in those 2 players' life totals. Make someone that thought they were safe to a swing open to a GG. Or just make a giant horror that starts swinging out. Either way, it seems like a pretty easy win. Next is a mean one, Mind Slicer, coming in at 21 cents. And again, this pain comes from you exclusively from Big Dog over on YouTube, so thank him. This is a rough one to face, but in the right deck, like, I don't know, Reanimator, you can lock some people out of the game for sure. Mind Slicer is 2 and 2 black for a 4/3. When it's put into your graveyard, each player discards their hand. I don't know, keep bringing it back with your commander, or just fill up everyone's graves for more stuff to use. Either way, pretty good. May I introduce Sir Conrad the Grim, recommended by capital GMTG over on YouTube for 81 cents. Conrad is 3 and 2 black for a 5/4. Whenever another creature dies or is put into the graveyard from anywhere, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad deals 1 damage to each opponent. Yeah, it also just has 1 and a black. Each opponent mills a card, just stapled on there as well. What an absolutely bushed card. It's good in mill, it's good in aristocrats, it's good in just any deck that has a good amount of removal, it's good with board wipes. Easy to win a game with this bad motherfucker. Grey Merchant of Asphodel comes in next at 38 cents, recommended by Julian Lenaud over on YouTube. 3 and 2 black for a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life equal to your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the amount of life lost this way. Kakusho, hold my beer, I got this. It's been seriously years, and this card is just as ridiculous as when it dropped. You gotta love it. Sepulchral Primordial comes in at 83 cents and will easily win you games. 5 and 2 black for a 5/4 Intimidate. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, return a creature card from that player's graveyard into play under your control. Yeah, 3 of their best creatures, and you've got a 5/4 Intimidate. Have fun with that win, especially with haste enablers. Jeez, that seems easy. Moving into one of the more interesting colors, we've got red win conditions now. Starting with a common for 25 cents with Witty Roastmaster. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, he deals 1 damage to each opponent. Wait, this sounds like Perforos. This guy's got that dog in him. Each opponent, every creature, every token. Unbelievable for a common, if I'm being honest. Up next, we've got Leyline Tyrant, which comes in at $1.89 for a solid-ass win con. 2 and 2 red for a 4/4 flying. Red mana does not empty out of your mana pool when steps and phases end. When it dies, you may pay any amount of red mana to fireball someone for that much. And with all the red mana you're storing up from its first ability, I could definitely see you killing somebody with this. Super solid. Delina Wild Mage is next for $1.60. This thing has beat my ass more than I'd like to admit. 3 and a red for a 3/2. Whenever she attacks, roll a d20. If you get a 1 through 14, create a tapped copy of an attacking creature you control. If you get a 15 plus, you do the same thing, but then you roll again. Yeah, you could hit some insane roll chains with this card that can just win you a game, which it very much has versus me. A lot of games. Port of Ire comes in at 28 cents. 3 and 2 red for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, deal 2 damage to any target. That seems pretty good. If you're the Monarch, deal 7 goddamn damage to anything. Yeah, talk about serious time clock. Plus card advantage. This thing's super good. Goblin Spymaster scurries in at 23 cents. 2 and a red for a 2/1 Goblin with first strike. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player creates a 1/1 Goblin that forces all of their creatures to attack each of their combats if able. Open up those boards, tap those creatures for all your creatures to bash face. You gotta love it. Death Kiss comes in again from Big Dog over on YouTube for 30 cents. 5 and a red for a 5/5. Whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks another one of your opponents, double its power until end of turn. 2x and a red to Monstrosity. When Death's Kiss becomes monstrous, goad X creatures your opponents control. This card is exactly how you win through chaos. That's just it. Me and the boys engaging in beholder shenanigans and tomfoolery. Up next, we got Gutter Snipe for 26 cents, and this is just an old classic. 2 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin. Whenever you cast an instant or or sorcery, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. Just like the Witty Roastmaster for spells, this could easily win you a game in a Spell Slinger deck and is severely underutilized. All right, moving on to our final monocolor win con with green. First green card's got to be Champion of Lambolt. This old school card has won me more games than I can count, and it's still an insane creature. 1 and 2 green for a 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield on your side, she gets a 1/1 count. It includes tokens. Creatures with power less than hers can't block creatures you control. Make her bigger with your tokens, then none of your tokens can be blocked. Make them bite the dust, baby. Next one's one that probably most of you know about. Overwhelming Stampede has dropped to $1.57. And let me check. Yeah, still smacks harder than a dry mouth auctioneer. Recommended by our boy Big Dog over on YouTube again. He's got all the recommendations for the ways to bring home a game. 3 and 2 green for a sorcery. Creatures you control get +X/+X and gain trample until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Overrun, but better. Next one is Predatory Focus, and it's the definition of I'm trying to smack your face. Is that cool? Hold on, I really don't care if it's cool. Predatory Focus is 39 cents for 3 and 2 green. It's a sorcery. None of your stuff can be blocked this turn. It's just as straightforward as that. Back in my day, you used to drop an Overrun and make your opponent do some math. Now you just play a Predatory Focus and they just look at you like this. Next up is Sandworm Convergence for 6 and 2 green for 19 cents. Sandworm Convergence is an enchantment. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. That seems pretty good. At the beginning of your end step, create a 5/3 worm with trample. Find a way to cheat or ramp this into play and just bash face unfazed by those little flying gnats your opponent has. Overwhelming Encounter comes in at 9 cents. 3 and 2 green for a sorcery. Wait, what's happening? Creatures you control gain vigilance and trample until end of turn. Roll a d20. If you get a 1 through 9, creatures you control get +2/+2 as well. If you roll a 10 through 19, creatures you control get 2 +1/+1 counters instead. If you roll a nat 20, oh boy. Put 4 1/1 counters on each of those creatures. This card will build some hype with that dice roll. Your whole table will be like throwing their hands up with that 20. And you'll easily bring home a game with any of the outcomes anyway, let's be real. Speaking of bringing home a game easy, Curse of Predation comes in at 26 cents. 2 and a green for an enchantment curse. Whenever a creature attacks the cursed player, it gets a 1/1 counter. Yeah, each creature, no matter who it's controlled by, as long as they're not swinging at you and swinging at that cursed player, their creatures are going to get bigger, including all those tokens you're swinging with. Very easy way to bring home a game. Next, we've got the heftiest section of cards, our multicolor budget win cons. Let's get into it. Up first, we've got Spiteful Visions for 74 cents. 2 and 2 hybrid Rakdos for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player draws an additional card. Whenever a player draws a card, Spiteful Visions does 1 damage to them. This card just straight up speeds up the game to like a blistering pace, as well as ending it with any wheel that's paired with it. Azor's Electors is next. As well as being one of my favorite cards to say, it's only 37 cents. 3 and 2 hybrid Azorius for a 3/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a filibuster counter on Azor's. If it has 5 or more counters on it, you win the game. Whenever a source deals damage to you, remove a counter from Azor. Sure, you'll get a lot of counters removed, but if you're in like a Pillow Fort deck, you literally could win a game with this fairly easily. Satura Umazawa is next for 20 cents, which is still just insane to me. Absolute bomb of a card. 1, a black and a blue for a 2/4. Whenever you activate an ninjutsu ability, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand and the rest at the bottom. That can only trigger once each turn, but that's not the part we're worried about. Each creature in your hand has ninjutsu for 2, a black and a blue, meaning whenever a creature you control attacks and connects with a player, you can cheat anything from your hand into play for 4 mana, including that 12-drop Eldrazi. I love that for you. Creekwood Liege is next, and it's one of my all-time favorite cards. 77 cents, and has won me so many games. 1 and 3 hybrid Golgari for a 2/2. Green creatures you control get +1/+1. Black creatures you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green and black worm creature. But since it's green and black, it's just a 3/3. You're just spitting out a ton of 3/3s on top of buffing anything else on your board that's the colors. I love this card. Biovisionary is one that people have known about for a really long time, but we mustn't let it be lost to time, brothers. You know what I'm saying? Coming in at 68 cents. 1, a green and a blue for a 2/3. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures named Biovisionary, you win the game. So start cloning, boys. Coming in next is Chance for Glory for $1.30. 1, a white and a red for an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Take an extra turn after this one. You lose at the end of it. I know it's weird to include a card that says you lose in a WinCon video, but you'll see. Drop a board wipe. In response, play Chance of Glory. Everyone else's boards get wiped. Yours is fine, and you get an extra turn to bash face on a clear board. Go ahead and bring it home. Campaign of Vengeance is coming in hot at 21 cents, like super hot. 3 and a black and a white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, yeah, any creature, the defending player loses 1 and you gain 1 for each creature. Like, need I say more? I don't. I needn't. I'd not. Balmore Battle Mage Captain comes in at 4 cents, baby. Blue and a red for a 1/3 flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, each creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That seems pretty good, and is it? Yes, and trample for some reason. Spellslinger token decks, rejoice. This thing has beat my ass multiple times. Do any of you guys remember Blood Baron of Viscopa? like how big of a card this was, how good this was. Does anybody remember the price of this thing when it was out? Like $20 to $30. I think it was pushing 30 at some point. Yeah, he's 37 cents now. 3, a white and a black for a 4/4 lifelink, pro white, pro black, just protection from the best 2 removal colors. Sure. As long as you have 30 or more life and an opponent has 10 or less life, it gets +6/+6 and has flying. You, my friend, have a 10/10 flying lifelink, pro black, pro white beater on your hands. So pretty good for a little over a quarter. My main man Jury's up next. A lot of people don't understand Jury, but he's just a silent soul. He's complex. He's complex. 1 black, 1 red for a 1/1. Whenever you sack a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on Jury. When Jury dies, deal X damage equal to its power to any target. Any permanent sack makes this guy harder and harder for your opponents to pull the trigger on. Plus, if you're sacking stuff, you probably have access to the trigger yourself, which makes him super scary. And finally, the last multicolor card we've got is 1000-Year Storm. That is dropped to $1.61. This thing was definitely pushing $10 at one point. 1000-Year Storm is 4 blue and a red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant or sorcery spell you've cast before it this turn. Yeah, I'll Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm, Time Stretch. Yeah, sorry, bud. I'm gonna take 8 extra turns. This thing could win you a game easily. And finally, we've got our 4 budget artifact win conditions. Now, artifacts can be ran in any deck, so I made sure that these 4 are really good ones. So up first, we've got Graz Unstoppable Juggernaut for 16 cents. Graz is 8 colorless for a 7/5 Juggernaut. Already pretty good. Juggernauts you control have to attack and can't be blocked by walls. Okay, I don't know why that matters for us. Oh, because every one of our creatures becomes a 5/3 Juggernaut. Not non-token creatures either, every one of our creatures. If you have in any way a creature deck, put this in it. This has won me so many games in my Alayla deck. Just put it in your decks. This card is nuts. Next, we've got Glaring Spotlight for $1.90. 1 colorless for an artifact. Creatures your opponents control that have hexproof pretty much do not have hexproof anymore. You can pay 3 mana and sack it. Creatures you control gain hexproof and unblockable until end of turn. There's a win con for you with some built-in protection too. You gotta love that card. Dragon Throne of Tarkir is next, and this is a severely underused card. Recommended by Michael Fisher over on YouTube for 48 cents. 4 colorless for an equipment that equips for 3. Equip creature has Defender, and you can pay 2, tap the creature. Creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. Throw this on your biggest guy, let your small fodder feel what it's like to be big, baby. That's how it goes. And finally, the last card of the video is a really cool one, Lux Artillery for 20 cents. 4 colorless for an artifact. Whenever you cast an artifact creature spell, it gains Sunburst, which is cool, but not what we're here for. What we are here for, on the other hand, is the next part. At the beginning of your end step, if you have 30 or more counters on artifacts and creatures you control, deal 10 damage to each opponent. In Planeswalker decks, +1/+1 counter decks, sagas, there's so much room for this card to just completely wipe people off the table. And with price tags like these, why not give some of these cards a try and then let me know how they go? If you enjoy large lists like this of cards, let me know. If you've been checking out the daily card highlights, let me know how you like those, and go check out the one for today. Leave a like, subscribe. If you want to go show a little bit of additional support for the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/NixLotus. It helps out a ton. Starts as low as $1 to gain access to the Discord and get shouted out at the end of the video. Speaking of shoutouts at the end of the video, we got our $1 Lotus Dippers, Tyler, Betsy, David, X-Fiend, Big Dog, and Horny Badger. Much love, guys. And then we've got our 2 $5 Lotus Enjoyers, Telescope Teddy, Daniel Romero. Much love, you too. And then we've got our 1 Lotus Loving Son of a Gun, $25 patron, El Flapo. Much love, El Flapo. And all you guys watching too, much love. And go play some Magic, guys.